Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today we are taking my follow-up look at the Civivi Dracolisk. Yes, that Civivi, the company that if you're a knife person, you probably own a knife or two from, and the knife company that you can find in places as common as like a Walmart. I unironically saw a Civivi knife in the knife case at Walmart when I went the other day, which was pretty crazy. That Civivi made a Balisong, and it's called the Dracolisk. And I do not recommend that you buy one. Before we get into that, though, I do want to say that Civivi did send this product out for the purpose of me making these videos, both the unboxing video and this video that I'm recording now. Any and all opinions presented in these videos are my own. I have not been financially compensated in any other way besides receiving this Balisong by Civivi, and I do not have any financial ties with them. I don't have an affiliate code or a link or a discount code for you to use or anything like that. Before we get into why I don't recommend the Civivi Dracolisk, let's go over the unboxing experience. In my opinion, it is pretty on par, maybe a bit below. It's average. I mean, it's kind of crazy that this is considered average nowadays. You get stickers and a warranty guide and advertising and microfiber cloth and this nice like case to put it in. Unfortunately, the case does barely fit the actual knife in there. Thankfully, it does fit, but it can be a little bit of a snug fit. And it like I said, it's crazy that that's like an average unboxing experience nowadays. But especially for the price, it's, I mean, nothing crazy, but nothing that I can complain about. I'd say it's right down the middle. Speaking of that price, this Balisong rings up at I can't believe this either, a steep $117.60. So about $118. For the purpose of this video, let's just say $120. Fair. And I can't believe that I'm saying that because, you know, a few years ago, that wouldn't be considered steep. That would be considered entry level. And a few years ago, I think that this Balisong would have actually been kind of decent, especially from a company as big as Civivi. But Ethan, if you usually use these videos to answer the question of whether you recommend a Balisong or not, why did you lead this video by saying that you don't recommend the Dracolisk? Well, honestly, I think anyone who spent more than an hour or two with Balisongs could have seen this coming from a mile away, but I'm more interested in spending this video talking about why it doesn't work for me rather than just shitting all over it or whatever other the case may be, telling you that it's not worth this or whatever. I think we can all kind of figure out that it's probably not worth what they're asking in its current form, but my goal is to provide feedback that Civivi may or may not go on to use to create a good, decent budget Balisong or good value for your money or whatever the case may be. Because we've existed in this community where big knife companies haven't really been getting Balisongs correct lately. I mean, just look at Benchmade and their Necron. And I think this is another example of that. And I don't want that. I want a big knife company to release a Balisong that actually fully represents what this hobby is capable of and will bring eyes from the wider knife community to so many other people that would have never been interested in something like this if something like this didn't exist from Civivi. Now, maybe this will be exactly that. Maybe there are people out there who will get into Balisongs because of this knife. But I don't think it's really putting the Balisong's best foot forward. So, starting out with the design. One thing that I heard a lot about, and actually, I might have said this already, I might have not. I'm now back from Blade Show, which means that I was able to take this around the show and actually hear feedback from people when they got to flip it, because this was something that people did want to try. And one thing that I heard from a lot of them was that the texturing is just too rough. Now, too much grip, in my opinion, is never really a bad thing, especially on an aluminum Balisong. It can be a little bit difficult to keep it in your hands. And the Dracolisk is not very slippery, don't get me wrong. But when you have too much of an abrasive texture going on, it gets into the level of straight up discomfort. And that isn't the greatest thing in the world when you're flipping. and when your hand is constantly rubbing back and forth against these incredibly abrasive surfaces. I mean, running your finger along this for even just like that starts to feel like you're rubbing it against sandpaper. So even just toning that down a tiny bit would be highly appreciated. The other thing that I'm really not a huge fan of in terms of the design, even though I like how it looks and I do appreciate these dual tone blacks that they added to the blade, is that the blade really doesn't have a side. Like, obviously it's got this little point here, but on each side the spine kind of comes to a point almost. It's a very thin amount of material. It's not crowned, it doesn't really feel chamfered, and it's very thin, which means not only are chaplains not very comfortable on this thing, but I also can't tell what side of the blade I'm on from feel alone. And unlike a lot of other Balisongs, where I can kind of look at the blade while I'm flipping it and get some idea of what side the bite handle is on, with this I get no feedback, because this little design element that tells you, oh, this is the safe side, if that's what they intended, is so subtle that when I'm flipping at full speed, this just straight up looks like a double-edged, straight point Balisong. And doesn't really provide any feedback for someone trying to use this as actual training. In terms of design as well, and comfort, these Zen nipples right here have pinched me multiple times this video in really, really painful ways. Specifically when I do this, my pinky rides up and goes pinch, and it does not feel very good at all. There's a little mark on my pinky there. You probably can't see it. Didn't leave too much of a mark. But let me tell you, it did hurt. It hurt quite a bit. Also, with the specs on this thing, Civivi does list that it's aluminum, but they don't list what type of aluminum. And we Balisong fiends like to know what kind of metal we are buying, because in terms of actually using a Balisong, the functional difference and even the flipping difference between a 70-75 Balisong and a 60-61 Balisong will genuinely change people's opinions on your value proposition when it comes to buying something like this. At $117, this could be a decent deal if it was 70-75. That's right on par with some of Nibali's stuff that's made out of that same material. But if it's 60-61, it's more than double what Nibali's also used to produce out of 60-61 and now actually offers in 70-75 aluminum. So having that info available to us as consumers would be very much appreciated. Now, let's get to the elephant in the room. Address me. That's basically how it sounded out of the box, because this $117 trainer is running completely on washers. There's no bushings of any kind in this thing. And it's disappointing, because I think I've realized, especially with Machine-Wise, getting a lot of their hype from the bushings that they put in their folding knife, the Sonora, I was hoping that they would kind of show the rest of the knife community that bushings do exist and they're kind of freaking awesome. But it seems like big knife companies like Civivi and Benchmade don't really want to acknowledge that they do exist and release Balisongs that are well above what they should be priced, missing those key features to something like this. Washers means that the tune is going to be loose almost instantly like it was out of the box, or you're going to have to choose between it doing this and it not swinging at all. Bushings are something that eliminate that entirely. And it's a pretty glaring omission when you have a Balisong like this that costs as much as it does. Again, this is a Chinese-made Balisong, double the price of some of our best Chinese-made competitors in the community, like Nibali's, even like LDY with the Orion V2, and no bushings to speak of. I have also seen some reports, and not even reports, I mean, go look at Benjamin Flips' channel to see this. His Zen pin snapped on him. Now, that hasn't happened to mine. It has held up to the amount of time that I have flipped it and flipping at Blade Show from other people. But I don't really feel comfortable in saying that that will never happen or that it was a fluke, because the fact that it even happened in the first place, and I'm pretty sure I even heard someone else at Blade Show say that it also happened to theirs, that is a crazy level of damage to something like this, much less something that doesn't come with any replacement hardware to speak of anywhere in the box, kind of further kicking that value proposition a little bit further down than what it was before. But the most glaring issue to me is the balance. Now, I do want to be clear here. Civivi has made a Balisong that is flippable. You've seen me flipping it most of this video, and it is not nearly as egregious of a price to performance ratio as something like the Benchmade Necron. So I do have to give them genuine props for not messing it up 100%. Because it's difficult to design a Balisong, and I saw a lot of people giving credit for that to Civivi in my unboxing videos comments, which I think is totally fair. It's difficult to make a Balisong that actually works, so that when the companies do, we do have to give them props where they deserve. And I will give Civivi props to this. I can flip it. It has a vaguely flippable balance, and it is not a completely shocking price to performance like the Necron is. I could genuinely see someone buying this and probably enjoying it. The problem is that you could get so much better for so much cheaper. It's not even the fact that it's both of those. Even just one of them, I would be okay with. If this thing performed just as well as a Cheese or a Refault or something like that, but it did cost $120, sure, the value wouldn't be there, but there would still be a reason to purchase it. So the fact that this thing doesn't really live up in price or performance is disappointing, but I do still want to give Civivi a few flowers for creating a genuinely flippable knife that we can use to get someone into the hobby at the very least. Now, that doesn't mean I enjoy how it flips. The balance on this thing is difficult to pinpoint. It struggles with fans, yet doesn't feel like it has a ton of handle weight. Like, it does feel like it has a ton of handle weight, but it doesn't feel like it has it where it counts. The ends of the handles feel very weak and very light, which means that chaplains are much more unstable than you're going to get on many other Balisongs in this price range. Fans are difficult to get into, although will carry their momentum decently. And the blade being so thick with no hole cutouts of any kind, I think is ultimately what's contributing to this kind of weird balance that I'm getting. But it never feels totally right when you're flipping this thing. It never does a trick exactly how I want it to or how I'm intending it to. And it always has something weird to say. You know when you're flipping a Balisong and it doesn't really say anything, like a Kraken. It just does kind of what you want it to do. It's not talking back. It's not exclaiming. This exclaims a lot. This is a talker. There's a lot of weirdness when you get into this, whether it's difficulty getting into a fan, or it wanting to fly away on a 0G chaplain, or it carrying a bit too much momentum at the end of a choker fan, or it not wanting to roll around your finger very smoothly. It just never feels totally right. Flippable, yes. But good, not amazing at the very least. All of that sums up to make the Dracolisk a Balisong that I cannot recommend. If you want to buy one, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, nor do I think that you would be completely wasting your money. But I do want to make it very clear that if you're looking for a Balisong that's cheap and that performs well, the hobby offers many other things that stomp everything about this for half the price. And I'm not saying Civivi has to get down there. I am saying, though, if they want to keep their prices where they're at with this thing and still have people interested in buying it, they need to up the performance. Or if they don't want to up the performance, I do think we have to see that price come down at least a little bit. At the very least to the sub $100 mark. Ow! It keeps pinching me. That's really bad. I also have small fingers, so your mileage may vary with that. But at the very least, I would like to see it down in that sub $100 price range. And I think that it becomes a little bit more of a stomachable offer. But even still at that point, I don't really like it a ton. I can tell they tried. I appreciate them for doing that, but I think there is genuine work that needs to be done here. And if they want to do the work, this is a good base. This is not something that you can't come back from. Throw a crown spine on this thing, make it a little bit more obvious to tell what side's the bite handle and what side's the safe handle. Maybe add a little bit of weight down here and tone down this texturing a little bit. I think you'd have a pretty decent balisong, all things considered, even without the bushings. I'm not saying you need bushings in order to be successful. Just look at the Squiddy Owl. Squiddy Owl is wildly popular with no bushings, but it also costs almost $30 less, depending on the variant that you buy at the very least. So, Civivi tried, and I appreciate them for that, but I think there's a long way to go if they want to make this a truly competitive flipper, both in performance and value proposition. Although I do commend them for trying, and I do thank them for sending it out for me to check out on the channel. For now, though, I thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.